My husband cheated on me with a stripper, and then he threw a party in honor of my birthday where he announced that she was pregnant. His sister helped me expose my husband to his family. My husband Cole and I have been married for 8 years. Our relationship began when I was 28 and going through the loss of my father. Losing a parent leaves you with an incredible feeling of loneliness and emptiness. Emotionally, I was in a very difficult state back then. That's when a charming older man appeared in my life who always seemed to know what to say to lift my spirits. At the beginning, we had a rather cliched story, and maybe that's why I fell head over heels in love with him. At that time, he was everything I was looking for in a man: reliable, caring, and attentive. We went on amazing dates, and he always behaved like a true gentleman. My mom was thrilled with him from the very start. When I met his parents, there was some initial tension between us because we belonged to different ethnic groups, but over time they really got used to me. His sister Kylie and I immediately hit it off and became very close. We talk regularly, often go shopping, or have lunch together. Kylie became the sister I had always dreamed of but never had. We share everything with each other, and sometimes I feel an immense gratitude that she appeared in my life. Cole and I were still in the honeymoon phase when he decided to propose. He completely took me by surprise with a proposal party, inviting all our close friends and family. I said yes without thinking. I still remember the smiles on the faces of our relatives, who kept saying that Cole and I were made for each other. I admit, for a long time I completely believed in this. The wedding went off without a hitch, and we spent our honeymoon in Mexico. However, when we returned home, we were met with the harsh reality. Moving into his house turned out to be a difficult task because he was very attached to his things and didn't want me to change anything in his living room or bedroom. I tried to find a compromise by suggesting that we gradually introduce my style elements into the house so that he could get used to them. However, soon a new problem arose: he didn't like the size of my wardrobe. He claimed that no sane person needed that much clothes. Although I wasn't a fashion blogger, like any other woman, I had clothes that I didn't want to part with. He insisted that I minimize my wardrobe as much as possible because he didn't want me to take up half the space in his closet. Understanding his concern, I agreed because I didn't want him to feel cramped in his own home. Instead of storing clothes in our bedroom, I decided to use the guest room for my wardrobe. Then he had a problem with my magnets on the refrigerator. Since childhood, I had dreamed of exploring new places, so when I finally got a job, I made it a priority to save money and travel as much as possible. One of my little traditions was to collect magnets from every new place I visited and proudly display them on the refrigerator as a reminder of my adventures. However, Cole always thought they were tasteless and categorically refused to let me put my magnets on our refrigerator. We had several heated arguments about this, but he eventually convinced me that it was not worth starting our marriage with conflicts, and I reluctantly agreed to give in. The first 2 years of our marriage, I spent a lot of time with family and friends. Cole, on the other hand, was a big homebody, especially because he worked a lot and often felt exhausted. I loved socializing and meeting with friends, so it was not difficult for me to sometimes go out alone, but we still found time for dates twice a week, which I really valued. Most evenings I preferred to spend with him, but sometimes I liked to meet with other people too. He also had his hobbies. For example, he spent Sundays with his golf friends, and that was perfectly fine with me. However, in the 3rd year of our marriage, I noticed changes in Cole's behavior. When we got married, we clearly agreed that we didn't want children, but suddenly Cole started saying that he wanted to become a father and talked about how he dreamed of a child from me. This surprised me, and I reminded him that we had made a joint decision never to have children, but Cole waved me off with a pregnant belly. His words caused me great discomfort. Several times he insisted on not using contraception, which scared me even more because I felt like he was trying to get me pregnant against my will. I tried to understand why he suddenly wanted to become a father, even though just a year ago he claimed that he liked the lack of responsibility that came with having children. Cole continued to insist that as soon as I got pregnant and quit my job, our marriage would become perfect. The thought of losing my job terrified me. I decided to start taking birth control pills after consulting with my gynecologist. Fortunately, it worked, and I didn't get pregnant. Meanwhile, Cole's behavior was becoming increasingly strange. He even started asking me who I was spending time with and where we were going when I wanted to meet with friends. He began commenting on how I dressed, which surprised me since I always chose fairly modest outfits. He advised me to dress more conservatively, even if I was wearing a regular shirt and jacket, claiming that he was worried about what other women would think when they saw me. At first, I let it go, but then he became more persistent, demanding each time that I change before leaving the house. This caused me discomfort and made me wonder what was happening in our relationship. After a few weeks, I noticed that some of my favorite things had disappeared from my wardrobe. At first, I thought I was going crazy and turned the whole house upside down looking for the missing clothes. When I asked Cole about it, he claimed he didn't know anything. However, while rummaging in the garage, I accidentally came across my things hidden in an empty box. I was furious and demanded an explanation. At first, he denied knowing anything, but I pointed out that there were only 2 of us in the house, so he wouldn't be able to avoid responsibility. After the argument, he finally admitted that he had hidden some of my clothes so that I wouldn't wear them when going out with friends. I was shocked and outraged. He tried to justify himself by saying that he just wanted to protect my reputation because men often consider girls who dress like that to be easily accessible or not decent. I couldn't hold back and yelled at him, stating that he had no right to decide what I should wear. I told him that in the 3 years of our marriage, I had never been unfaithful, so why was he so worried about the opinions of other men? I made it clear that no reasonable person should control their partner like that. In the end, he apologized, and since this was the first strange incident in our relationship, I thought that maybe he was just going through a difficult period. So, I decided to let it go. But things only got worse. I started noticing that messages from my friends and family mysteriously disappeared from my phone. For example, if I was chatting with my mom and we arranged to meet in a couple of days, I wouldn't find any trace of our conversation a few days later. This was confusing. At first, I thought it might be a phone glitch and updated it to fix any potential issues. Then one of my friends called to tell me about a small party she was planning for her close friends and asked if I could come. She mentioned that she would send an invitation soon, but I never received it on my phone. When she called later to ask why I hadn't responded, I explained that after our conversation, I hadn't received any messages from her. It was only at her party that weekend that she showed me that she had indeed sent me an invitation, which I never received. This was very strange and worrying. I began to suspect that my phone had been hacked and decided to buy a new one. I'm emotionally attached to things, so I didn't want to sell my old phone in case it could be fixed. All this time, I had been telling Cole about the strange things happening with my phone, and he seemed just as puzzled as I was. However, on the day I bought a new phone, I didn't think to mention it to him. That night, I woke up with a strong thirst and went to the kitchen for water. When I entered the living room, I caught my husband sitting on the couch with both of my phones in his hands. It took a few seconds for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, but when they did, I saw him fiddling with my phone. I was shocked and outraged and loudly asked him what the hell he was doing. He flinched, clearly caught off guard by my sudden appearance. Then he started mumbling incoherently, saying that since I had bought a new phone without telling him, he never should have trusted me. While I stood there in shock, trying to comprehend what was happening, I calmly explained to him that he already knew about the problems with my old phone and that I had simply bought a new one, which I hadn't even had time to set up yet. I told him that he could have just waited until I told him about it the next day. I asked him again what he was doing with my phones in the middle of the night. Hesitantly, he tried to explain that he was just checking if there were any problems with my phone. I snatched the phone from his hands and noticed that he had opened my chats on the old phone. It dawned on me like a bolt of lightning, Cole was the one deleting my messages, which is why I wasn't receiving invitations from my friends and family. Meanwhile, he continued to insist that he couldn't sleep, so he came out to watch TV and then accidentally stumbled upon my new phone on the bedside table and decided to check it out of curiosity. He claimed that he was also checking my old phone to find any issues I might have missed. I looked at him with a blank expression and bluntly asked if he had been deleting my messages from the phone. Hearing this, Cole became nervous and categorically denied it, calling the very suggestion absurd. He insisted that he would never do anything like that. However, despite his denial, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something was off. I pointed out to him that he had clearly been digging through my messages in the middle of the night, so his denials didn't make sense. I couldn't understand why he would do this to me. I didn't tell him that because he had been deleting my messages, I hadn't been able to meet with friends or family. It felt like a betrayal, and I couldn't understand why he was so cunningly undermining my relationships with my loved ones. I could no longer even look him in the eye. I felt disgusted and decided to trust my instincts. I told Cole that this time he had crossed the line and that I needed some space. I started packing my things, intending to stay at my mom's place for a while. He begged me not to leave, eventually admitting that he had deleted my messages just to spend more time with me. I couldn't understand how he could justify such a violation of my personal space, especially considering that I was already spending enough time with him. Later, when I shared this with my mom, she agreed that his behavior was indeed strange. However, she also said that I was lucky to have a husband who still loved me so much after all these years, even if his actions were wrong. Despite her words, I couldn't get rid of the feeling of betrayal and anxiety. My husband continued to call me like crazy and send endless messages. The texts varied from apologies to accusations that I had made him think I was cheating on him. In the next few days, I kept my phone turned off and tried to distract myself by helping my mom around the house. I don't know why, but on the one hand, I felt that something was wrong with Cole, and on the other hand, I didn't know what to do about it. It seemed like I was afraid to admit the truth to myself. Fortunately, Kylie came to support me. She was also shocked by what her brother was doing to me. I know many of you might think that of course, she would support her brother because they are close relatives, but Kylie is a real girl who will always stand up for women. She assured me that my feelings were absolutely normal because no man should wake up in the middle of the night to check his wife's phone and react the way Cole did, especially if I had never given him any reason to be suspicious. She agreed that something was off and promised to talk to him to get to the bottom of it. After talking to Kylie, I felt better and hoped that she would be able to talk some sense into Cole. I turned my phone back on after our conversation, feeling much calmer. However, I was immediately bombarded with angry messages from Cole. He was acting like a completely different person, and in some messages, he even threatened to divorce me and leave me with nothing, just as my father had done, according to him. This was completely unlike him, and I couldn't understand what I had done to provoke such anger in him. I also noticed that there were no new messages that day, so I thought maybe he had realized his mistake and felt guilty. I hoped that he would eventually call, and we could sort everything out. However, 2 days later, Kylie called me to tell me some news that I probably wouldn't like. When Kylie arrived, she looked furious and showed me photos on her phone taken outside Cole's house. In the pictures, a young blonde woman was entering our home. I couldn't understand what this meant, and then Kylie told me that Cole was cheating on me. I felt like all the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I just shook my head while Kylie continued to tell me that she had been watching this girl for the past 2 days as she came and went from Cole's house and suspected that her brother was having an affair. I was shaking and felt sick. Kylie tried to hug me, but I pushed her away and ran to the bathroom. The world was spinning around me, and I felt a dull ache in my head. I couldn't stop thinking that this simply couldn't be true and that there might be a simpler explanation. When I came out of the bathroom, Kylie's face was a picture of concern, and my mom, whom Kylie had called to tell about what happened, looked at me with anger. I tried to laugh it off and tell them that it was probably the maid or one of Cole's colleagues. But the more I tried to explain why such a young girl would come to my husband while we were in a fight, the more pitying the looks from Kylie and my mom became, and I started to feel nauseous. My mom gently sat me down on the couch, but I just continued to stare at the floor. Kylie said that she wanted to believe that her brother hadn't cheated on me, but the evidence pointed to the contrary. Then she asked if Cole had been in touch with me in the last 2 days, and I shook my head. She fell silent, and then I was overwhelmed with tears. I can't describe the incredible sadness you feel when you realize that your marriage is over. All I can say is that Kylie and my mom were there for me, sitting right on the floor and comforting me in their own ways. When I had somewhat recovered, my mom said she was sorry, that she had hoped my cowardly husband would change, and promised to help me find a good divorce lawyer. Kylie agreed and said she was going to find out more about that mysterious girl to see if it could help me in the divorce. I just nodded. All I wanted was to sleep, so they left, leaving me in bed so I could pretend that all this was just a bad dream. However, like anyone going through betrayal, I woke up with a dull ache in my chest, and it gradually dawned on me that the love of my life had betrayed me. Kylie sent me the very photos of the woman entering our home, so I enlarged them as much as possible to see how young she was. I couldn't believe that my pathetic husband, instead of talking to me like a normal person, decided to get involved with some random girl. This made me even more furious. If my husband thought he could do whatever he wanted and I would just crawl back to him, he was in for a big surprise. I decided to file for divorce and take from him everything I could. My mom and I started looking for good divorce lawyers in our area to schedule appointments with them. Kylie kept calling to check on how I was doing. When I chose a lawyer, the first thing he said was that we needed to hire a private detective, PD, to gather as much evidence as possible to help me get the most favorable divorce terms. The services of a PD were not cheap, but I didn't regret the money if it would help Cole understand that it was better not to mess with me. During all this time, Cole had only written to me twice. Both times he asked if I was ready to apologize to him. These messages only angered me more because I had so much I wanted to say to him, but I understood that if I told him everything now, he would find out about the divorce prematurely, and I wanted to see his reaction when I handed him the papers. Cole never bothered to come to my mom's house because in his mind, he still considered his behavior regarding my phones to be completely justified. Meanwhile, my lawyer informed me that the PD had gathered a lot of convincing evidence. Cole's relationship with this young woman seemed serious because they met literally every day. This made us think that it was not just a casual affair but a romance that had possibly been going on for a long time. Kylie also found out after a few hours of online research that the young woman was named Georgina and that she was only 23 years old. The most shocking thing was that she had a criminal record and was wanted in another state for participating in a car theft years ago when she worked for one of the gangs. This meant that my husband had started a relationship with a potential criminal, which was incredibly unpleasant to realize. Now, Georgina worked as a stripper, and without a doubt, she was lying to everyone about her past. Kylie and I discussed the situation and agreed that Cole needed to know the truth. We decided to organize a secret meeting with Cole's parents without letting Cole know, so I could tell them everything that was happening. At first, Cole's parents, who had no idea about our family problems, were shocked by what they heard. They told me that Cole had been lying to them for weeks, assuring them that everything was fine at home. Kylie also showed them the photos of Georgina, and we had additional evidence collected by the private detective. Cole's parents were furious that their own son could do something so disgusting. Cole's mother hugged me and assured me that they were on my side and expressed disgust at her son for deciding to have an affair with a stripper with a criminal past. We developed a plan to catch Cole red-handed so that his parents could intervene and I could hand him the divorce papers. My birthday was in a few days, so Cole's parents took matters into their own hands and called him in my presence, insisting that he throw a big party for me so we could all get together. Cole tried to weasel out of it, saying that I probably wouldn't like a big celebration, hoping that his parents wouldn't find out what was really going on in our marriage. But his father insisted, saying that he had already spoken to me and that I had said how much I wanted to celebrate my birthday. Cole looked stunned when his father mentioned this, but in the end, he agreed to his parents' demand to throw a party for my birthday. Throughout the conversation, he never mentioned that I no longer lived with him or that he was seeing another woman. Later, Cole tried to contact me, but I didn't respond. Then he sent me a message saying that he wanted to throw a party for my birthday and hoped that we could leave the past behind for the sake of his parents. I responded, pretending that this plan was not originally ours, and told him how nice it was of him and that I would be happy to come. On the day of my birthday, I took the divorce papers and the photos from the private detective with me, just in case Cole refused to admit his infidelity. When my mom and I arrived at Cole's, he didn't even try to hug me but just gave me a dry smile and my mom. We entered the house and saw that this person hadn't even bothered to decorate the house for the party. Everything looked like a dorm room, gray balloons haphazardly hung in the living room, and the living room itself was terribly dirty. I went into the kitchen and saw a mountain of dirty dishes. Cole had ordered pizza as refreshments, which almost made me laugh. When his parents arrived, Cole greeted them. We all pretended not to suspect anything, waiting for the right moment to confront Cole with the truth. When Kylie arrived, she brought me gifts, and then we all sat at the table, pretending to have a casual conversation. We cut the cake and everyone congratulated me on my 36th birthday. Cole said that he had wanted to tell everyone something for a long time and decided that this was the perfect moment. Cole began to speak, saying that no one knew, but he had been unhappy in his marriage to me because I supposedly emotionally abused him and never considered his feelings. He claimed that I had manipulated him, making him doubt himself, and that I had never been a good wife to him. Then he said that he had recently found out that I was cheating on him when he caught me with another phone. And after he confronted me about it, I left him. He paused for dramatic effect and continued, saying that if it weren't for Georgina, he wouldn't have been able to survive the last few months of our crumbling marriage. He talked about how he met her 6 months ago and how one thing led to another, making him realize how badly I had treated him. Then he announced that since I had left, he and Georgina had been spending more and more time together and had recently found out that she was pregnant with their 2nd month. My eyes widened in shock because this was new information that I wasn't prepared for. I turned to Kylie, and her mouth was also open in astonishment. Cole continued to talk, saying that as a woman, I had failed by not being a good wife to him, but he was lucky to have met Georgina, and now he hoped that his parents could accept her. My mom, who had been holding back her anger until that moment, finally couldn't take it anymore. She stood up from her chair and threw a glass of Sprite in Cole's face, shouting what a piece of scum he was. Cole looked stunned, and Georgina was scared. Then Kylie shouted at Cole that his game was over and that we all knew about his affair with that woman. Kylie continued to tell him everything she had learned about Georgina, including the fact that she was wanted in another state for car theft. I can't describe how satisfying it was to watch the color drain from my husband's face as he began to panic. That's when I realized that this was the perfect moment to hand him the divorce papers. I took the papers out of my coat, walked around the entire table, and handed them to him. I solemnly declared that it was over and that now that he had publicly admitted to cheating, I was going to take everything he had. My mom and I apologized and left, leaving his parents and Kylie to continue shouting at him. I was finally ready to be done with him and his drama and didn't intend to stay there a minute longer. Throughout the drive home, my mom kept saying how proud she was that she had raised such a strong woman. I didn't know exactly what Kylie and her parents had told Cole, but it must have been something serious because he didn't stop calling and texting me, begging to talk to him. The next morning, I woke up to nearly 80 messages from Cole, where he begged me to come back to him and promised that he would change. He wrote that he was willing to go to family therapy and that if I really loved him, I shouldn't give up so easily. If you had asked me a year ago if I ever thought I would divorce Cole, my answer would have been no. However, now everything has changed, and I know that I am on the right path. Although my mind knows that I am doing the right thing, my heart still feels sadness towards him, especially when I see his desperate messages about how he cannot live without me and how he always dreamed of growing old together. But I cannot trust my heart anymore, so I really did the right thing by exposing my husband's double life to his family and finally filing for divorce. So, I suggest you write your opinion in the comments right now, and we will move on to the update. Update 1 *. I received a ton of messages criticizing me for even considering forgiving that terrible person. I understand you, people. I am not going back to Cole. I admit, when I wrote that post, I felt a bit guilty. However, now the feeling of guilt is gone, and I will no longer let my stupid husband's words affect me. Many of you say that I should just block him, but I can't. My lawyer advised me to keep all channels of communication open until the divorce is finalized. Many of you also pointed out that Cole is still lying and probably had a long-term affair with this Georgina or another woman, which is why he became so controlling and possessive in his life. Update 2 *. A few months have passed since my last update. For those who asked, I took a test for STDs. I am happy to report that everything is clear. Now, about the divorce. It is still ongoing. Cole's lawyer continues to find excuses to drag out the process, which is incredibly frustrating, but my lawyer and I are not in the mood to give up. Cole's lawyer is trying to ensure that I get nothing, but I paid for all the repairs in the house during the 3 years of our marriage. I painted the walls myself and set up his basement so he could have his man cave. I paid half of the loan on his car and bought groceries every week. So, I deserve a share, and we will do everything to make sure I get it. Kylie and Cole's parents continue to stay in touch with me. Last month, I met with Kylie, and she shared some happy news: she is engaged. The wedding will take place in the coming months, and she has already invited me. I don't know if I should go because I don't want to meet Cole, but Kylie insists that she wants me by her side on her important day. Kylie also informed me that Cole and Georgina have broken up. Apparently, after the scandal at my birthday party, Georgina admitted to him that she had actually slept with several men, so there was no guarantee that the child was his. After that, she ran off with another man, God knows where, probably scared that we might call the police. Cole was shocked by this and blamed me for everything, but his parents reprimanded him again and reminded him that he was the only one to blame. Honestly, I don't care at all about his feelings or their breakup, and I hope in the next update to talk to Cole's parents and hope that they will help me convince him to finalize the divorce as soon as possible so that I can finally leave all this behind. Update 3 *. Guys, I did it. I got divorced. I can't believe I'm finally free. Cole and his lawyer did everything to drag out our case, but the judge was just tired of it. In the end, Cole agreed to give me everything I asked for. As it turned out, Cole's parents talked to him again and threatened to disinherit him if he didn't finalize the divorce and stop these months of petty disputes. I am incredibly happy, and tonight I will finally go out and have a blast with my friends. I also invited Kylie. I want to thank everyone who followed my story and wrote words of support in the comments throughout this journey. Well, as always, I suggest you write in the comments what you think about this whole story. My opinion is that their marriage was probably over the moment the husband wanted a child and the wife, accordingly, did not. And here, when two people simply do not have the same plans for the future, what else is there to talk about? Especially when they don't agree on such serious matters as children, it's fatal. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Write if you agree with me. Also, watch our previous video, which you will see here, and good luck to you. Update 4, Life after divorce. It's been several months since my divorce was finalized, and I wanted to give you an update on how I'm doing and what's been happening in my life. First and foremost, I am in a much better place emotionally. The initial pain and heartbreak have started to fade, and I've found a renewed sense of freedom and independence. Being single again has allowed me to rediscover who I am outside of a relationship, and it's been a refreshing and empowering experience. I've been focusing on self-care and personal growth. I've taken up new hobbies, like painting and yoga, which have been incredibly therapeutic. I've also been spending more time with friends and family, who have been incredibly supportive throughout this entire process. Their love and encouragement have been instrumental in my healing. Professionally, I've thrown myself into my work. I've taken on new projects and responsibilities, which has not only been a great distraction but also a fantastic opportunity for career growth. My colleagues have been very understanding, and I've received a lot of support from my workplace. I've also been focusing on my health. I've started a new fitness routine and have been more mindful about what I eat. It's amazing how much better you feel both physically and mentally when you take care of your body. As for my social life, I've been going out more and meeting new people. It's been a bit daunting at times, but it's also been exciting to connect with others and form new friendships. I've even gone on a few dates, which have been interesting experiences. While I'm not ready for anything serious just yet, it's nice to know that there are kind and interesting people out there. Kylie and I have remained close, and she's been a rock for me throughout this journey. She's been through her own ups and downs with her wedding planning, but we're both supporting each other and celebrating each other's milestones. It's wonderful to have such a strong and supportive friend by my side. Cole's parents have reached out to me a few times to check on how I'm doing. They apologized for their son's behavior and expressed their regret over how things turned out. It was a bit awkward at first, but I appreciate their concern and the fact that they have respected my boundaries. As for Cole, I haven't spoken to him since the divorce was finalized. I heard through the grapevine that he's been struggling, but I can't let myself feel guilty about that. He made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. I hope he finds his own path to happiness, but I know that my future lies elsewhere. I've also been thinking about the lessons I've learned from this experience. I've realized the importance of communication, trust, and mutual respect in a relationship. I've learned to trust my instincts and to prioritize my own happiness and well-being. Most importantly, I've learned that it's okay to walk away from a situation that no longer serves me. Looking to the future, I'm excited for what lies ahead. I'm open to new opportunities and experiences, and I'm hopeful that I'll find love again someday. But for now, I'm content with focusing on myself and enjoying this new chapter of my life. Thank you all for your continued support and for following my story. Your kindness and encouragement have meant the world to me. As always, feel free to share your thoughts and comments below. I love hearing from you and am grateful for the community we've built. Take care and talk soon.